Hey everyone, welcome to the 17th episode of the Social Good podcast. We have Chris Beck with us here today. He's the CEO and co-founder of InCloud. Thanks so much for joining us today, Chris.
Hi.
So we actually have we share the same alma mater. We're both graduates of the University of Southern California. Which year did you graduate again, Chris?
I graduated in '09.
Okay, oh nine. So I graduated in 11. So I think we have like a few mutual contacts. But yeah, can you just tell us a little bit about your story? What were some of the um yeah, like what's your story? How did you I know you're in Japan currently, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well how did
So,
you end up there?
sorry, go ahead.
How did you end up in Japan?
Yeah. So, being in Japan is kind of like the same story as a lot of different people. Grew up watching anime, playing a lot of video games. So, a lot same as everyone else. Grew up loving Japan, and so uh, ended up coming here as a student, and just ended up staying. Just going to as you said, we went to the same alma mater, going to USC as well. I transferred to USC as I first went to community college first, and then transferred to USC. So that in itself, I would say, is a pretty important part of, I guess, not getting the full undergrad experience at like a 4 year private university,
Mm,
which I think is pretty important to be able to get not just the experience going to a 4 year private university, but also having to transfer in through a community college, through this community college system,
mm,
which, if I didn't have that system, there was no way of me ever going to USC.
mm.
So I give a lot of credit and a lot of gratitude towards the community college system that we have. Um,
What year did you transfer to USC?
I transferred in 2006. So I graduated high school in 2004. I did 2 years, pounded out 2 years in community college down in Cyprus in Orange County, and then
Mm.
transferred to USC in 2006.
As a junior.
And sorry,
As a junior.
as a junior, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha.
And I was a finance major, so there was the whole Lehman crisis in
Right, right,
2008, and
right.
because I was a finance major, my advisor was like, "Hey," I was like, "I'm super worried about not finding a job, doing all this stuff," and then I was like, If you can stay another year to be a super senior, you should just do it." And so
Oh,
there was a point in time where I had to take a little bit of time off. I took a semester off in my senior year, excuse me, and so I just did that final final semester. I cut that in half and was a super senior for a year.
nice. That's a nice little nomenclature.
Yeah,
So did you ever like study abroad in Japan or what was
I
the
never did like a proper study abroad, but I did a study abroad during my final year at community college. So my community college had a summer study abroad program, which I did, and the that was the summer between community college and USC. And I actually found out that I got into USC on that program, like
Oh
in the
wow.
middle of being in Japan.
Wow.
I found out that I got accepted, and so
Okay.
that was really, really cool.
Okay. And so you mentioned starting out as a finance major. Did you end up graduating with that or what did you do?
Yeah, so yeah, I was a finance major, concentration in corporate finance.
Mm.
Um, did not care for it whatsoever. It just turned out that I was really good at it. You know,
Mm.
I guess same with a lot of people. People they're good at certain things, but not necessarily it's their passion or what they even want to do. But yeah, turned out I was pretty good at doing corporate finance, but hated it. So
Okay.
didn't want to go into any. thing related to that, but also during, because it was like the Lehman crisis,
Mm,
the whole housing market and things like that.
mm.
It's not like they gave me a choice anyway, so it was kind of like, you can't. You're a finance major, but here's a choice that was made for you in terms of not being able to find a job in finance anyway. So I guess
Oh,
it kind of all worked out.
okay. So I mean, did you go straight into InCloud, or I think you worked in a couple of different places before, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, my first job right out of college was completely unrelated to finance. It was like a real estate database management company.
Mm.
And if that doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it. It was like super whatever in terms of, it's just a job that gets you a job, right? It's a job to just
Okay.
get you
Gotcha,
some
gotcha,
experience, and there
gotcha.
was not really anything else going on, and so I ended up getting it was my first taste of actual corporate life in terms of, hey, this is how like corporate structure works. This is how your immediate boss, the whole stereotype of having middling middle management that is extremely uh you know doesn't get anything done, and you just
Oh
kind of like really
no.
frustrated. It's like you're really prototypical kind of like situation where you get your full experience of that.
Was that in LA?
Yeah, that was in LA. And so,
Okay.
that was my first job right out of college. And
Okay.
so having that experience of, okay, man, this is what corporate life is all about. You're just kind of like, oh, F, like this is not what I want to do.
Oh, I
Um,
see.
which which actually I really give a lot of thanks to about, because without that experience and without that kind of like um that desire to not be in that situation ever again. If I didn't
Mm,
have that, I would have never taken the leap to move out here. So I
right,
really
right.
give a lot of like a lot of gratitude to that experience.
How many years were you at that real estate
I was there for
company?
like 2 years.
Okay, okay. And
Yeah.
then did you go straight into InCloud or you did something else?
No, so I mean, I moved to Japan as a language student. So I came here, I came to Japan without knowing Japanese. I came here as a student, kind of like as a YOLO, right? I was kind of like
Okay,
really fed
okay.
up with my 2 years in a corporate gig that you really don't enjoy. You kind of go like, you get fed up with it. And you kind of need a refresher. And I was in like I was in like my mid 20s. I was
Mm,
24. And so it was like a really good opportunity for me to just be like, I want to reset my life. I want to just do something that I've always wanted to do.
okay.
Um,
And Japan was
and
the place for you.
yeah, and so I just went like, okay, I want to do find myself a little bit
Mm,
prior to coming back to the US, and then you know doing the rest of my life, right? So the
okay.
initial plan was to go to language school for a year here in Japan,
Mm,
get that out of my system, just enjoy myself, reset, try to find what I want to do for the rest of my life, come back to LA, and then continue on that. But that was 13 years ago, so
oh wow.
strange thing, strange how life works out, but yeah.
So what exactly is the story there? You gotta tell us.
So yeah, I mean, strangely enough, I was never really a social person, but when I went to USC, I kind of reinvented myself in
Right,
terms of
right.
trying to be more outgoing, try to be more social, trying to like for example at USC sorry, in high school, I was like a huge nerd, never went out, just played video games all the time. Had my close group of friends who was like a group of four guys, five guys that and I was super happy about that. But when I went into college, I really told myself, this is my opportunity. Nobody knows who I am. This is my opportunity to really reinvent myself. And so,
Mm,
I was involved in like so many different, clubs on campus, all of these different things.
okay.
And, taking that lesson from my experience, as I guess reinventing myself into what I wanted to be as an adult. Same thing as when I came to Japan, it was kind of like, okay, just try to network, try to be social, try to like meet a bunch of people. And
Mm,
throughout that experience as a student, that's how I found my first job here in Japan. It was that there was a startup funnily enough, that I used to come to Japan. They said, Chris,
Oh, nice.
we really like your vibe. Really think it would be awesome to work with you. And they pretty much just recruited me into the company
Nice.
as their second full time employee. And then yeah, it just went from there.
What type of company was that?
It was a like a study abroad support company. So basically it was
Gotcha.
like helping students that wanted to study in Japan, helping them
Okay.
find the school, apply for the school, apply for the visa,
Okay.
find housing, and also throw events so that people
Got
could
you.
yeah come here and do events and make sure that they're like they weren't like lonely here, right? So that they had other people
Mm.
that were students to be able to like mingle with and stuff like that.
So, like, what roles did you take there, and how long were you there for?
So I was there for like 6.5 years. I initially started as like your base level just guy that was helping like do inquiries, like answer people's questions and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But then yeah, when I left, I was COO. So
Oh, wow.
um yeah, I was the second full time employee, and then I ended up being number two when I left.
Got you.
So
Got you. And so you did like basically everything, is what I
yeah, had to wear a lot of hats. So
Okay.
yeah, very very different than my initial experience in corporate culture. Just doing one thing and not doing it very well.
Right. Right.
Having to do everything, and I guess
Okay.
maybe not doing everything that well either. So
Mm.
it's kind of
And
like
like, just as a
split.
side note or question, did you speak Japanese fluently also?
At that time, my Japanese was okay, but I wouldn't say it was fluent
Okay.
because that particular job meant that because I was only dealing with people coming from overseas, it was like
Right. Right.
it was pretty much all in English.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Got you. And are you fluent in Japanese now?
I would say my Japanese is pretty good now, yeah, because ever
Oh.
since leaving that role and then starting my own business here in Japan, and then focusing mainly on local customers, it's
Mm-hmm.
really been like, okay, you can't get by with just your day to day conversation anymore. Now it's
Okay.
like, oh, now you need to learn how to speak professional Japanese, and
Okay.
having to use that on a daily basis has
Mm.
been like the thing that really skyrocketed my language ability.
So what, like, what prompted you to start InCloud, and like how did you meet your co-founders?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that I'm very blessed in terms of opportunity. I would say that I've been blessed to have been able to fall upwards in a sense,
Okay.
and
What do you mean by
and
that?
I would say that so for a long time I used to have like really really bad imposter syndrome. I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel the same way in terms of in the sense that we feel like even though we're able to get so far with our own merit, it feels very much like, oh, you don't deserve it, or there was other things that helped to get you along the way, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that I feel very, very blessed in terms of having met the right people at the right time, having the support and right timing or whatever it might be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I attribute that to basically falling upwards. So there's a lot of times where I feel like I don't know how this happened, or like I don't know if I actually had the merit to be in the position that I am right now. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a mix of luck, there's a mix of I don't know, serendipity or what it might be for me to be in my current situation.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and so
what is mm-hmm. Go ahead.
no, sorry, go ahead.
What is your company exactly? What services do you guys
So pretty much, and this is absolutely unrelated to anything that I've done before. We are a web development company that focuses on IoT. IoT meaning Internet of Things, which basically means to in layman's terms, it's basically you have something that connects to the internet, and then I basically build the part where the the internet part. So you have something which is like a, let's say, a refrigerator, for example, or a light or a camera, right?
Right,
And
right.
then you want to connect that to the internet, or you want to send that data to the internet, and you want that data to do something. You want to
Okay.
analyze it, you want to save it, you want to do
So
whatever with it.
is it like
That's the
smart
part.
appliances?
Exactly. It could be smart appliances. It could be, yeah. I guess the easiest way to like conceptualize it would be a smart appliance, right? You want to like control it using your phone, for example, right?
Mm.
That exactly is what my company does.
So do you guys like do the installment of it, or do you guys like handle the software or
It's
both?
all software parts. So there's, yeah,
Oh,
when it comes to IoT, there's two aspects. There's the hardware side, which is like the smart appliance side, which is sorry, the appliance side, and then you have the software part, which is the part that makes it smart, right?
right, right.
And we deal with specifically the software side.
So I'm assuming you guys work with suppliers then for the smart appliances.
Yeah, so we work with one of Japan's major white goods manufacturers as one of our major clients. And
White
yeah,
goods meaning
huh?
white goods meaning.
White goods meaning like appliances, like
Okay,
yeah,
okay, got
white goods meaning like air conditioners,
okay,
refrigerators, stoves, microwaves, so on and so forth.
got you. And did you leverage some of your network from the Trojan family for when you were starting your business at all?
Um, Not specifically, not directly, I guess, but the Trojan network in itself has always been very helpful in terms of
Hmm.
very very well connected in terms of a lot of different industries.
Okay.
I would say one of the biggest things has been here in Japan, Tokyo specifically. Um, One of my classmates at USC is, I would say, the most well known foreign entrepreneur, or not entrepreneur, but like startup founder
Got
in
you.
Tokyo, is a USC alum. And
Okay.
so, being able to connect with him, or not even connect with him, he's a good friend of mine from before anyway. But
Hmm.
being able to have that connection has been
Hmm.
very helpful for me to like bounce ideas off of him, to be like, okay, how do I manage my business, so on and so forth. So it's been very good to leverage the network in that
Did
way.
did you recruit him or did he recruit you or kind of both?
There was no really recruiting, because we were always friends, and then
Got
it's
you.
not like our businesses have ever
Hmm.
overlapped. Like, he
Hmm.
started his own company, I started my own company, and now it's just kind of like two founders trying to get advice from each other.
Oh, I
Uh,
see. So he's
yeah,
not your
yeah.
co-founder.
No, 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 no.
Okay. How did you meet your co-founder?
I met my co-founder just just through a friend of a friend. In terms of just yeah, I mean, just meeting different people, becoming friends. And actually, the really interesting story about this, which I think is really important for, I guess, for myself, but also the story that I want to pass on to your viewers or whoever might be listening, is the fact that um it's just, I would say, empathy. I think for me drives a lot of my decisions, in terms of personal, but also professional. But in terms of personal, I would say I give a lot of gratitude for my position about being able to be with my co-founder, because of pure empathy and compassion, right? Like, he actually, and this is a very personal story, but you know, when we first met, we were friends, we were pretty close. But what really set our relationship to on the trajectory of like best friends slash business partners, was the fact that I showed him, a level of compassion and kindness when he was going through a really tough time. That he told me that nobody would have ever done that for him. And I think
Wow.
because of that, and for me, I've always felt like I kind of would like do this for anybody in need. But I guess it was something that really resonated with him, and you know, because of that, he also gave me this opportunity to be able to start a business together.
Hmm.
And he's the IT guy, right? He's my CTO. He's the one that knows everything about IT. And when I started this business about in IoT and in web development, I had no background in it, right? So being able to get that opportunity through him has been nothing but an incredible blessing, right? And I would not be in the situation if, I hadn't shown him the compassion at that time. And so
Yeah.
I think, one thing that I really, really, I guess one of my core values is just, empathy and compassion. I think really goes a long way. And I think even when in terms of entrepreneurship and business, it doesn't have to be cutthroat, right? It doesn't have to be like you got to lose in order for me to win.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really deep.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I just think that when a lot of people think about business, it's always like, okay, how do I do the best for myself, or how do I extract the most value out of this deal or this person, or so on and so
yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't see it that way. In terms of also, even in my previous company that I was part of, it was always like, how do we extract the most value out of our workers, as opposed
Mm,
to why don't we just respect our workers, and then
easy. Yes.
they'll give us what they'll give us if we respect them, right? And so that's all of these life lessons for me has made me realize that
Mm,
you don't need to be like that in order to run a successful business. um
mm,
you know Although you see out in life where you see like the Elon Musks, where it's like super wealthy and successful, well, successful, quote unquote. I don't consider it as successful. If you are just out there trying to extract the most value out of people, and then throwing them away when you don't need them. And so you only hear those stories because they're the loudest. But then you also have those quiet business owners, the quiet entrepreneurs that are out there taking care of their people and not making a fuss, and still doing really, really well for themselves. And so, that's more of the ethos that I follow in terms of wanting to run what I define as success. Um, yeah, so definitely not trying to be like Elon Musk, and more like someone that is like taking care of their people.
that's super insightful. What I guess what I want to ask is like, where do you think you got your like sense of empathy?
I'm not sure, actually. That's really hard for me to pinpoint. But I
Good.
think at a certain point where you just realize that like like people are doing things for you, and you just
Mm,
have to give gratitude. I think
mm,
that's been really, really important. I think from a young age, I've always probably from how my parents raised me to give a lot of gratitude and things like that.
mm.
I think that's really helped a lot. But yeah, I really can't say if I could pinpoint one certain thing.
Yeah.
Um, but
Okay.
yeah, I think it's really important for people to always just be self aware. Like always kind of question yourself on where you stand in
Mm,
terms of where you are compared relative to like
mm.
how you are affecting other people.
I see.
Um, and it's really important if you can start understanding where you stand. I'm not saying necessarily like compare yourself to other people, but like really just understand, like basically be spatially aware in terms of how you stand on how you
Mm,
affect other people.
mm.
You can more kind of gauge like how to kind of navigate life a lot better, I think, if you kind of understand how you are treating people and how people perceive you.
Yeah, that's really I feel like that's super important. Like when I've been trying to do my app, I feel like I'm just, not coming from a place of like super um like a super empathetic place. So maybe that's like what I'm doing wrong, or I feel like I need to like re-examine some of that as well. So yeah, that's super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I just really think it's like, you always really need a balance, right? Like, because you can't ever fully commit to a cause or or an idea or a business if you're not passionate about an
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it, right? Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, I need to be all in on the passion part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you still need to have some sort of like core part that you're not gonna fall, like you're not gonna
Okay.
waver from, um, about your particular idea or your business
Yeah.
or whatever it might be. And I think that's the main driver between, I think, I'm not saying it's like the key to success, the key to the thing that's going to make you not fail at this particular thing.
Mm.
But it really helps, right? Like
Okay.
because you can't just succeed based off of passion, based
Mm.
off of effort. But it is really important for you to like get over those like humps, in terms of, oh, I kind of don't want to
Absolutely.
do this, but if you
Got you.
have that kind of like extra sauce, that's going to help you do that extra thing, that gets you over the hump.
Got you. Got you. Yeah, thanks for sharing that with our viewers. And with me as well. So, kind of moving on to the next topic. What are
Mhm.
some of like the learnings that you've had from InCloud? Like what are like the major lessons that you've learned?
I would say, oh, that's a good question. At my previous startup, or my previous company that I was with, I think the major lesson that I learned was, treat your people right, right? Like, or just making sure that a lot of businesses are run by people, and it's really important to take care of your people. And I think that was like the major lesson that I learned in terms of like a business perspective
Okay.
of
Okay.
things. And then having learned that and applying it to my current business, um, important lessons.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's the running your own, being an entrepreneur has always been nothing but a learning experience. So I would say, I don't know if I could tell you off the top of my head what like my greatest learning experience was, but it's really been like a test, right? It really tests you in terms of, like, is this the right thing for you? And I think that, I guess the greatest lesson that I'm learning right now is I guess grit, right? Like really being able
Mhm.
to um like understand more about yourself, like what your limits are. Can you go beyond your limits? Is this even like what you want to do? So on and so forth, right? And I would say entrepreneurship is not for everyone, and honestly, that's okay, right? I think a lot of people kind of put entrepreneurship or startups or whatever on a pedestal. They really, have this grand image of what entrepreneurship really is, but entrepreneurship is not sexy, right? It sucks. It's a lot of like digging in the dirt, and sucking it and getting stepped on and being crapped on, and it's lonely. It's really awful, right? A lot of times, right? But you are kind of like telling yourself that sucking it this hard, there's going to be an upside to it in the future, right? So it's not for everyone, and I think that's really okay. And I think a lot of people need to understand that it's okay to understand if something is not for you, or if it's understand that it's okay to have just a 9 to 5 job. It's totally fine, right? It's totally okay to be happy doing that, right?
Right.
And and grass is not always greener, right? I mean, it's really easy to say, but yeah.
What keeps you going personally?
That's a great question. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I question that every day, thinking that, oh man, I don't know if this is for me, or so on and so forth. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's DNA. My parents are both entrepreneurs. My sister's an
Wow.
entrepreneur. Like I think it's within our blood to just want to dig in the dirt and get stepped on, and and suck it. I don't know. Maybe that's just we're just born enjoy pain, perhaps.
Oh, wow. What did your parents do?
I mean, first generation immigrants to the U.S. You
Okay.
know, they've done everything, right? They've done, you know, I like they went from like running a liquor store, running a laundromat, to working in the fashion district for 20 years,
Wow.
to owning a restaurant. You know, basically doing everything
Wow.
um, to try to get the American dream.
Got you. Got you. And like, did when you grew up, like, seeing that side of your parents working hard and doing their own businesses, did that kind of inspire you to be a business owner yourself?
I actually, I would say, like, to be quite frank with you, not really, because I guess as I was growing up, I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand my absolute privilege. Like, I'm nothing but blessed to have been able to, have pretty much everything given to me. I have
Mm-hmm.
access to education, to even be able to go to USC, right? Like USC
Mm-hmm.
is not a cheap school, right? And
Right.
I went to community college, but even then,
Mm-hmm.
it is like not a cheap school, and to be able to have all of that paid for. Um, by my parents is nothing short of privilege, right? It's that
Right. Right.
there's no way I can deny that, right? And he, they work really hard. They worked really hard for that, and I think
Mm-hmm.
growing up, it's always been about, like, they were always working, like, 14, 15, 16-hour days. There was no vacation, there's nothing like that, right? So I would say, on the flip side, I would want to not be like that, right? Like, you would logically think that, hey,
Yes.
your parents were working really hard. I don't want to mimic that, where it's like, let's say, if uh I would want more freedom, because that's what they want,
Mm-hmm.
would have wanted for me. um but yeah, I'm not actually sure how that happened. Maybe it's just like, you know like, inherent, or it's just intrinsic within us to want to follow in your parents' footsteps. But yeah, I actually have no idea, because
Was it
yeah.
like kind of like a later development? And by the way, like, I totally understand the privilege part. I went to USC on like a partial scholarship, so I definitely understand that side too.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, I don't know if, you know what, though? Like, if I think about it, and I'm just coming, kind of like, stream of consciousnessing this right now, and coming to this kind of
Mm-hmm.
realization, I think
Mm-hmm.
that privilege that my parents afforded me kind of gave me, I guess, I wouldn't say courage, but the blind courage to be able to leap into the unknownness of entrepreneurship, right?
Got
To
you.
just to because I was raised in a bubble of privilege. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of, like, put me in this mentality of, I'm going to be okay. And so, in order to be a successful entrepreneur, you kind of just need to be courageous. You just kind of need to be like,
Yeah.
F it, I'm gonna make it work, or I'm gonna be okay regardless, right? So, not having anything, I guess, left in the tank, or, like, to quote my favorite, one of my favorite movies, Gattaca, where it's like, you don't save anything for the swim back. It's kind of like the same thing, right? Where if you just go all like be able to go all in on something,
Yes.
I think, my privilege has allowed me to kind of have that mentality, for better or for worse, right? Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but
Mm-hmm.
to have that mentality has helped me be an entrepreneur, I think.
Got you. Um, yeah, I mean, this is all really like great information. I'm like soaking all of this in, by the way. Like, this is maybe my favorite podcast that I've ever done episode. Um, yeah, so I'm kind of curious. What are like your current challenges or goals within cloud?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, it's always day by day, right? It's kind of like, you've all like I told you, I've suffered from imposter syndrome for so long, but it's kind of like, you know really telling yourself, hey, you deserve it, or like, hey, you got this here. I'm not saying I got here by myself, but it's always
Mhm.
like, it's it's also up to you. Your input has also brought you to this point. And I think it's really important to always give yourself gratitude, right? Like, it's always
Mm-hmm.
good to remind yourself, hey, look, it's not just luck. It's not just someone else. And you're
Mm-hmm.
not, it's not always external factors that get you here. It's also your own merit. It's also your own doing that
Mm-hmm.
creates luck, right? It's not, it's not just dumb luck that gets you so far. You also need to be ready to be able to take on and be able to perform when the timing is right and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, the greatest challenge on a day-to-day basis always is to remind myself of that, and also yeah, just to know that it's not, I'm also part of my own success, right? As
Right.
opposed to external.
That's really interesting because normally when people talk about imposter syndrome, it's mainly described or attributed to women. What's this? How long have you like struggled with it?
Oh,
Yeah, because yeah. Mm,
yeah. I mean, I would say a lot of people suffer from imposter syndrome. To be honest, it's just I think any level of a certain level of success. I think people, um, especially I guess in our culture, especially recently, I guess in our generation and things like that, it's always been like, fake it till you make it. Like,
mm,
um, just do it. And I think that whole fake it till you make it mentality is ripe for imposter syndrome.
mm, mm,
And I think that I think a lot of people more than you would assume, have it or suffer from it.
mm. Okay, okay. And kind of like going back to your product, like your services that you provide within cloud, how did you find like your ideal customer persona? Like, how did you find the demand for those services in Japan?
Um, I mean, starting this particular business in Japan has always been about, finding like a good product market fit, and also finding like where you fit and what you can provide as a
Mm-hmm.
service to customers, and whether or not the need is there or not, right?
Okay.
And generally speaking, when I started my business, has always been like, okay, there was a need. There's always been a need for example, uh, like a different way of thinking to kind of disrupt the way that Japanese people normally do things, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like the market here. It's very rigid, it's very slow, it's very behind, right? I would say like those are the three main ways to describe Japanese like tech. And I think online they describe it very like really well. Like Japan's been stuck in like the 2000s for like the last 40 years, right? So Japan was really
Oh.
advanced. Japan was really advanced in like the 80s and 90s because everyone was like, "Oh, their technology is in the 2000s," right? But
Mm-hmm.
now here in 2024, it's still stuck in the 2000s, right? The early 2000s. So
Right.
it kind of like went to a point where it was really advanced to now,
Mm-hmm.
oh crap, now we're really behind, right? Um and so being able to identify that, and being able to be like, okay, now that we've identified the root need of Japan, now how do I offer that, how do I package it, and how do I sell myself to be able to take advantage of that? And the way
Mm-hmm.
that InCloud has done that has been like, we bring that Western mindset and the Western way of technology, because
Mm-hmm.
uh, and having that link to California has always been like, I always say, I have a lot of experience, or we have a lot of connections with Silicon Valley and things like that.
Right.
Being able to leverage that name value of Silicon Valley and of tech, to be able to be like, okay, now we are on the cutting edge of side of things. Let us show you
Mm-hmm.
how we can help you, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you work with like consumers, or do you like in people's homes, or do you work with like with are you like a B2B business?
Oh, we're 100% B2B. Yeah,
Oh, I see, I see.
yeah, 100% B2B.
Okay, so who are your customers?
Like I said, my current biggest client is one of Japan's biggest white goods manufacturers.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, one of the biggest products that we made for them was a food safety platform, because same as in the U.S. And more so here in Japan. I'm sure it's the same in Korea. It's like food safety is a huge deal, and so when it comes to like refrigeration units, you need to every single person, if it's in a restaurant or supermarket, you need to keep track of the food temperature,
Oh,
and
okay.
someone needs to record the food temperature of things like this. And so, my client basically made a sensor that is completely wireless, that is placed inside of refrigerators to monitor food temperature levels for food safety. Whereas previously, a person had to walk by every single. You probably seen this in a supermarket where a guy walks
Yeah.
around with a clipboard and just is writing
Mm-hmm.
stuff down, going next to
Mm-hmm.
refrigerators, basically automating that entire system. And we made the online aspect of all of this, and so
I see.
they rolled that out to like drugstores, restaurants, and supermarkets all
Mm-hmm.
over Japan. So our system is being used in like 5,000 plus stores all over Japan right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Oh wow. So is this like technology that's like that's being used in the West and the US currently?
I would assume so. Yeah, I would assume so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I never really bothered to kind of take a look, but yeah, I would assume so, because food safety is huge everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I would assume so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that I really appreciate you taking the time to share some of your learnings and some of your advice. Um, and to end on this last note, I want to ask you, what's like your top advice that you would give to people who are starting out in business, or who are starting a business of their own?
I would say that it's okay to I would say I would say two major things. First, it's give gratitude to yourself, right? Like all the time. Like it's tough. Being an entrepreneur is not easy, right? And it's okay, right? And it's okay to tell yourself that you're struggling, right? It's okay to ask for advice. It's okay to reach out to like ask for help, right? So I would say, like, my top advice for being an entrepreneur is, like, it's okay to 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 admit that you're struggling, and to admit that you need help, right? Because I think a lot of times, as entrepreneurs, we struggle to be like, there we need to have an image of, we know what we have, our shit together, we know what we're doing, and we just need to get it done, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to admit that it's really tough, and to fall, and to kind of like this, the two part of that is that it's okay to admit that it's not for you, right? I think that's really important to understand, that it's like, your self-worth is not based upon whether or not your business fails or succeeds. It's based upon your own happiness, and your own like fulfillment on what the purpose of running a business, or doing entrepreneurship is. And if it doesn't align with any of that, it's okay to walk away, right? So I think it's really okay. I think it's really important to understand those two different things when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Got you. Thank you so much, Chris. We loved having you on the podcast. And I hope to catch you next time.
Yeah.
All
Thank you
right.
so much for the opportunity.
All right. Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.